Hi, welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, I'll be explaining what people mean when they talk about a semitone or a whole tone, and also how useful they are and how we can use them in our playing. So a semitone or a whole tone is just a name which describes the measurement or the distance between two different notes. A semitone is the shortest possible distance between two notes, in other words neighboring notes, like this. So if we take a C, either side of it is a semitone away. This is a C and this is a B. They're a semitone apart. That's an interval, the musical term commonly used called an interval of a semitone. From there to there, C to C sharp, that's also a semitone. This is a semitone, an interval of a semitone, another interval of a semitone, and another interval of a semitone. Whether they're played separately or together, it's still a semitone. So they're neighbouring notes with no other notes in between. A whole tone, I think you've guessed it, is where there's a gap. There is a note in between. So a whole tone, sometimes described as two semitones. Some people call it just a tone, but a whole tone is with a note in between. That's an interval of a whole tone, from C to B flat. From B to A is a whole tone. From B flat to A flat is a whole tone. From B to C sharp is a whole tone. So the difference is semitone, whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone, whole tone. If you wanted to practice this, just to to try and consolidate it in your mind, I would just do something like this. I would just play from C to C sharp and just say it to yourself. That's a semitone and that's a whole tone. Then move this finger up. I'm using my left hand here. That's a semitone. That's a whole tone. That's a semitone. That's a whole tone. That's a semitone. That's a whole tone. And so on. So why is this useful? Well, it's useful because we can think in tones and semitones, especially when you get to a more advanced level. If you're working with another musician, you might say, well, that's two tones away. For example, if we had C, semitone, whole tone, 1.5 tones, 2 tones. So you might say to someone, well, it's 2 tones up. If you're working with a singer, for example, you might say, well, let's try singing that a semitone higher, whole tone, 1.5, 2 tones, 2.5 tones, and so on. That's one reason. Another reason is when you start to analyze chords and scales, you can start to think in tones and semitones as well. Commonly, a major triad, meaning a 3-note chord, is formed of the first note of a scale, the third note of a scale, and the 5th note of a scale. But we can also understand chords by thinking in tones and semitones. So a major chord always, doesn't matter where you start or what instrument you're playing, will consist of the first note, and then we go up 2 whole tones, semitone, 1 tone, 1.5 tones, 2 tones, and then followed by 1.5 tones, half, 1.5, sorry, 1, 1.5. So all major chords can be formed by that rule. take any note, let's say this one, it's a D, go up 2 tones and then 1.5 tones. Semitone, 1 tone, 1.5 tones, 2 tones, and then 1.5 tones. Half, 1, 1.5. That's how we form any major triad. C major triad, D major triad, E flat major triad, for example. And when we're thinking about the minor chords, it's the same idea. We can work them out by using one rule, which is 1.5 tones followed by 2 tones. This is C minor chord. Take our first note, C, go up a semitone, 1 tone, 1.5 tones, followed by 2 tones. Half, 1, 1.5, 2. So 1.5 tones, 2 tones. And if we apply that rule starting anywhere, we form our minor triad. So there's hopefully a clear explanation of what a semitone is and a whole tone. Just to recap a little bit, semitone, 2 notes next to each other, nothing in between. That's a semitone, semitone, semitone. A whole tone is where there is a key in between. You could also think about it as being 2 semitones. That's a whole tone. An interval of a whole tone. An interval of a whole tone. There's another one. And they're useful because we can understand how we form our chords. A major chord is 2 tones followed by 1.5 tones. A minor chord or minor triad, 1.5 tones followed by 2 tones. So they're very, very useful. Also, as I said, if you're working with a singer or another musician, you could say, hey, let's move this up a semitone or a whole tone, and hopefully if they know what they are as well, then it will be easy to work with each other. Well, I hope that was useful. Thank you very much for watching. Please do give me a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'd be grateful if you could share this and have a look at 1 or 2 of my other videos. Thanks very much. Bye for now.